Camels are not from the desert. They evolved in North America 45 million years ago, back when Wyoming was a rainforest. They lived there for over 30 million years before crossing an Ice Age land bridge into Asia. The animal you associate with the Sahara is, genetically speaking, as American as a bison, and almost everything else you think you know about them, from their humps to their blood, is wrong too. The earliest known camel wasn't a camel in any way you'd recognize. Protylopus showed up in the fossil record around 45 million years ago in what is now the southwestern United States. It was roughly the size of a rabbit. 4 toes on each foot, leaf-eating teeth built for munching soft forest plants, no hump, no long legs, no desert in sight. It lived under a canopy of tropical trees in a landscape that looked more like modern Costa Rica than modern Arizona. For the next 30 million years, the family Camelidae did all of its evolving in North America. Dozens of species branched off. Some stayed small, others got enormous. Some had long necks like giraffes, others had short, stocky builds better suited to cold climates. By the late Miocene, around 6 million years ago, a camel called Paracamelus had grown tall enough and sturdy enough to cross the Bering Land Bridge into Eurasia. From there, descendants moved south into the Arabian Peninsula, across North Africa, and eventually into the Gobi Desert. A second branch headed the opposite direction, down through Central America and into South America, where llamas, alpacas, guanacos, and vicuñas live today. Every camelid alive right now, from the 2-humped Bactrian to the wild guanaco in Patagonia, traces its family tree back to North America. Back in North America, camels kept going strong for millions of years after those migrations. The last one standing was Camelops, a tall browser that roamed from the Pacific coast to the Great Plains. Fossil bones from the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles show that Camelops was walking around Southern California at the same time early humans were arriving on the continent. Then, roughly 12 to 13,000 years ago, Camelops vanished, along with mammoths, saber-toothed cats, ground sloths, and most other North American megafauna. The camel's homeland became a place without camels. The ones that survived in Asia and Africa adapted to a completely different world, and the way they adapted is where camels stopped making sense by normal mammal rules. Start with the hump, because almost everyone gets this wrong. The hump does not store water, it stores fat. A healthy dromedary camel can carry up to about 35 kilograms of fat in that single hump. When food gets scarce, the camel's body metabolizes that fat into energy and, as a byproduct, produces a small amount of water through a chemical reaction called oxidation. When the fat is used up and flops to one side like a deflated bag, feed the camel and the hump fills back up. It is a portable fuel tank that happens to sit on the animal's back, and the reason it's on the back instead of spread around the body like a bear's fat layer is that concentrating the fat in one spot keeps the rest of the skin free for heat radiation. Even the location of the hump is a thermal engineering decision. The reason the water myth persists is that camels are absurdly good at not losing water, and that starts with something you would never expect: their blood. Mammalian red blood cells are round and flat, like tiny frisbees. Camel red blood cells are oval. They are among the very few large mammals on Earth whose red blood cells have this shape. The oval form lets the cells slide through blood vessels even when the blood thickens during severe dehydration. A round cell in thick blood can jam and clump. An oval cell glides. That shape also lets the cells flow through capillaries that would be too narrow for a swollen round cell, which means the camel's tissues keep getting oxygen even when the blood is running thick as syrup. According to a 2023 study published in Micromachines, camel red blood cells can swell to roughly 240% of their normal volume without bursting. Human red blood cells pop well before that. When a dehydrated camel finally reaches water and drinks, water floods into the bloodstream fast. The oval cells balloon up, absorb the shock, and keep functioning. A human drinking at that rate after severe dehydration would risk rupturing blood cells throughout the body. The camel's blood is built for violent rehydration in a way that no other large mammal's blood can handle. And camels drink fast. A thirsty dromedary can take in over 100 liters of water in roughly 10 to 15 minutes. That is the equivalent of filling a bathtub in the time it takes you to eat lunch. The elastic walls of the stomach and intestines stretch to hold the load while the kidneys and blood gradually absorb it. The kidneys themselves are another piece of the puzzle. A cow produces around 20 to 40 liters of urine per day. A camel in the desert produces roughly 1 1/3 liters. The difference is an extremely long loop of Henle inside the kidney, a structure that concentrates urine far beyond what a human kidney can manage. Camel urine comes out thick and syrupy, almost like molasses, because every drop of recyclable water has been pulled back into the body. Even their feces are so dry that Bedouin herders have traditionally used fresh camel dung as fuel, burning it right off the ground because it is already dry enough to catch fire. If you're learning something here, hit subscribe. More stories like this every week. The nose is just as strange. A human nose has roughly 13 square centimeters of internal mucosal surface. A camel's nasal passages contain close to 1,000 square centimeters. According to research reviewed by Ask Nature, those massive nasal surfaces act like a built-in dehumidifier. When a camel exhales, the warm, moist air from the lungs passes over the cool, dry tissue inside the nasal passages. The water vapor condenses onto those surfaces. When the camel inhales again, the moisture gets reabsorbed. Researchers have estimated this system recovers up to 60% of the water that would otherwise be lost with every breath. The nostrils themselves can close down to narrow slits during sandstorms. A double row of long lashes protects the eyes. A third translucent eyelid can slide across like a windshield wiper, clearing sand without fully closing the eye. These are all features you'd associate with a machine designed for desert survival. But remember, the engineering started 45 million years ago in a rainforest. Then there's the temperature trick. You run at a steady 37 degrees Celsius. Your body sweats, shivers, and burns calories to keep that number locked. A dehydrated camel does not play by those rules. According to a study published in the Journal of Biological Rhythms, a water-deprived dromedary lets its core body temperature swing by more than 6 degrees Celsius across a single day, dropping to around 34 degrees at night and climbing to around 40 degrees by afternoon. The body stores heat during the day like a battery, skipping the evaporative cooling that would cost water. At night, the stored heat radiates out into the cool desert air for free. A well-hydrated camel keeps its temperature steady, like any normal mammal. But cut off the water and the camel switches strategies, treating its own body mass as a heat sink. No other large land mammal does this as dramatically. The thick coat helps too, and that seems backwards. Why would a desert animal want a fur coat? Because the coat blocks solar radiation from reaching the skin. Shave a camel and it actually sweats more, not less, because the sun hits the skin directly and the body has to work harder to cool down. The fur is insulation against heat in, not heat out. Put all of this together, and you get an animal running at least 6 overlapping survival systems. Fat storage in the hump, positioned to maximize heat loss from the rest of the body. Oval blood cells that swell without rupturing. Kidneys that wring every molecule of water from waste. Nasal passages that recapture exhaled moisture. A body temperature that swings like a thermostat with a mind of its own. And a fur coat that works as a sun shield. No single one of these features is unique in the animal kingdom. Kangaroo rats concentrate their urine. Desert foxes have big ears that radiate heat. Pack rats build insulated nests. But no other stacks all of these systems into one body at this scale, with this level of integration. The camel is not an animal with a good trick. It is an animal running a full operating system for water conservation, built layer by layer across tens of millions of years on a continent it no longer lives on. And that might be the strangest part. Every adaptation that makes the camel a perfect desert animal was refined over millions of years in a place that had forests, plains, marshland, and ice ages, not endless sand. North America was the proving ground. The Sahara and the Arabian Peninsula were just where the final product ended up. The camel didn't evolve for the desert. The desert just happened to be the right fit for what North America had already built. If you want more stories about animals that break the rules, the channel has plenty. See you in the next one.